Hello there, beautiful friends, once again. This time around, my sister in the tradition and one of the gurus in the tradition of the Nath Sampradaya, and also in a way, as I mentioned previously, I can honestly say one of my mentors as well. We decided for, beginning of this year to start with a kind of a series about the Yamas and the Niyamas. So without further ado, Lakshmi ji, welcome back again, and I'm glad that you are here. And please, the stage is yours. You can begin immediately. And Adesh.
Thank you. And Adesh, Mahārāj, before we start to discuss uh, the Yamas and Niyamas separately, deeply, let's talk a little about what Yama and Niyama are. As you know, these are the first two parts of the yogic discipline, which has 8 parts according to Maharishi Patanjali. And these 8 parts, or Ashtanga in Sanskrit, are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. And Patanjali wrote about 5 Yamas and 5 Niyamas. Yama can be translated as limitation or control or observance, and Niyama means prescription or rule, vow, restraint. So that is, Yama and Niyama are certain restrictions and prescriptions for a yoga practitioner, a kind of foundation of practice and a way of life. And I know that many people think that these rules are something like moral principles of life. But the meaning is deeper. And these principles are intended for control and for managing our energy. With practice, energy becomes more, and it's very important whether you know how to preserve it, accumulate it, maintain the necessary level of purity. If there is not enough purity of your energy, if the energy is rough, if there is a little of energy, then progress in practice can be very difficult or even impossible. And the amount of energy and its quality are very important to yoga, so that asana, pranayama, or meditation are successful. Another point that is also present in Yama and Niyama is working with karma. Following these principles, we can minimize the accumulation of new karma and align our lives, I can say so. Gradually, conditions are created that begin to facilitate the practice and not hinder it. In the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali mentions that establishment in Yama and Niyama leads to siddhis, or perfect abilities. So therefore, there are different levels of understanding of these principles, and there are different depths of implementation up to the acquisition of supernatural powers. That is, we can say that Yama and Niyama are already the practice itself. So this is the way of life, which is the most real practice for us.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
I'm
very
listening.
important to understand this. So
Indeed.
it's
I
not
don't want
just
to,
the moral principles. What?
yeah, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm here as a listener as well. So please continue.
Yes, no problem. Uh, in different yogic texts, you can find different lists of yamas and niyamas, different in number. For example, 10 yamas and 10 niyamas we can find often in the texts of Nath Sampradaya, of Nath tradition. And moreover, each tradition has its own nuances and details, and often the guru gives yamas and niyamas to the disciple individually. So there can be much more of them than 5 or 10. But I think we will gradually go through the 10 yamas and 10 niyamas of Nath tradition, because we belong to Nath tradition.
Yep.
And they already include the principles given by Patanjali, because Patanjali gave 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, like basic ones. So in our tradition, the principles of yama are as follows. This is Ahimsa, non-violence; Satya, following the truth; Asteya, non-stealing; Brahmacharya, following God or Brahman; Shama, that is forgiving the faults and guilt of others; Dhriti, patience in all situations. You stay hard and very established in yourself when something happened around you. Then Daya, compassion for all people and living beings, help in need. Arjava, honesty and simple life. Mitahara, moderation in diet. And Shaucha, purification of body and mind. These are the 10 yamas. And 10 yamas are as follows: tapas, ascetic practices; tapasya; then santosha, contentment with that what one has, satisfaction; japa, the repetition of mantra; mati, the sharpness of mind, of intellect; astikya, this is the faith in sacred texts, the guru; faith in the saints of your tradition; dana, donation; Ishvara Pujana, worshiping the devatas with devotion; Siddhanta Vakya Shravana, that means listening about Siddhanta, the teaching of yoga; Hri, a sense of conscience and the desire to correct one's errors, mistakes; and Homa or Huta, the sacrifice, the worship of Agni, outside and inside your body.
Right.
Yeah. Long
So
list. Yeah.
yes, the idea is to speak, to start from the beginning, first and
Yes.
foremost, the Ahimsa, yeah?
Yes, I want to start with Ahimsa, non-violence. You know, each principle can have a broad interpretation depending on the situation, individual situation. Therefore, I will try to give an understanding of the basis of each principle, foundation. So you can apply it in your life in different situations. Ahimsa in many texts, Ahimsa is considered the first and most important of the yamas. And in general, this is a pretty clear principle that we can and should follow from the very beginning of our sadhana. Ahimsa is non-harming all creatures, not only by actions, but also by thoughts and speech. There are three levels of Ahimsa. This means abstaining from the evil feelings, thoughts, and actions, hostile behavior towards all people and living beings. Ahimsa also consists of not supporting violent actions. For example, in the matter of food, a yogi, a practitioner, usually does not eat killed animals, birds, or fish. He's a vegetarian. Consuming this food, killed animals, is not only a kind of participation in the killing of a living being, but such food has a strong quality of tamas, ignorance, which passes into the energy of practitioner. This is the second reason, because they are vegetarian. On a subtle level, Ahimsa is a process of self-control or self-awareness and awareness of everything around you. If you intentionally harm another person and lose control of your mind and actions, you create imbalance in yourself. Violence means moving away from your true nature, and Ahimsa means moving closer to the pure spirit. When you and the universe are in harmony. I would say that Ahimsa is about the process of accepting the world as it is and understanding that nothing in this world is in opposition to you. And this level of realization, of course, requires raising your consciousness above your karmic personality, which creates distortions in perception. It is going beyond duality and it is being in emptiness. But let's talk a little about duality, because it's also important for many people. Ahimsa, or non-violence, goes hand in hand with himsa, violence. In the dualistic world of samsara, one cannot exist without the other. Violence will always exist in this world, even if all the holy people follow Ahimsa. Because this is the nature of the world. Himsa represents the forces of samhara, or dissolution and destruction. And these forces are necessary for the universe. So Ahimsa or violence can be dharmic, and in this case it corresponds to the order of things, to the universal law or dharma. For example, the dharma of a kshatriya, a warrior, is to protect people, and sometimes he can kill enemies. So there is a violence in this. In the modern world, there are many situations when you have to use some kind of violence to protect yourself or your relatives, your friends. Dharma of yogi or sadhu is different. To practice yoga or to do tapas or tapasya, to be in meditation in the supreme reality, spreading purity and light around. Also, there is a dharma of householder, a family man, or grihastha, the dharma of a priest, or a doctor, and so on. And I know this is a difficult question. What is my dharma in our Western world, where everything is mixed up and there is no clean division into roles according to birth or family. And people, they don't know their dharma and how to live and act in the right way, in dharmic way. And I would say that this is a separate task for a practitioner, for a yoga practitioner, to understand what his dharma is, what behavior is dharmic and what is not. And for this, I can recommend you to study the concept of dharma in Indian culture from different angles. Then study the rules of your society and culture, and perhaps an understanding of your own dharma will come suddenly in some meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you should know that dharma is something that is related to the rules and order of a society living in harmony. Dharma is a separate, a huge topic, and I just mention it because it's important for understanding how we can use Himsa and Ahimsa correctly. And I want to continue about this Himsa, violence. We apply this force of destruction or violence not only to the world around us, but also to ourselves very often. In a good way, to destroy negative habits and weaknesses, what they call internal demons or enemies. However, people often use violence on themselves in a bad way. For example, forcing themselves to suffer and follow some superficial ideas about themselves that are natural and possibly harmful for them in the name of some morality or being forced by society. They follow some stupid ideas or way of life. Also, person can be engaged in self-flagellation and condemnation. It's also kind of himsa. You know, sometimes war goes on inside the person, and he spends all his energy on it. So real Ahimsa is a perfect inner peace. So there is no opposition inside, and therefore there is no opposition outside. And this peace happens only in the state of no mind, or in the state of unmani, or samadhi. We can say that opposition to anything, violence, rejection, all this arises in the mind, which is conditioned by karma. So if we rise above the mind and above the personality through our sadhana, then ahimsa becomes natural, without any efforts. Another point here is self-knowledge, clarity about yourself. Because this clarity is needed to identify your destructive tendencies, to discover rejection of certain things, reject fixations in the worldview that cause internal and external conflicts. And the more you practice, the more you have this clarity and pure vision of yourself and the world. Because, you know, sometimes we just can't see how we use the violence on ourselves. That's why we need this clear vision. As you can see, there are several levels of understanding and practicing ahimsa. And I recommend starting with the simplest. Trying to control yourself at the level of action, mind, and speech. Trying to notice where you show violence or hostility, why they arise, what's the reason. If you carefully observe yourself and others, you will find that the manifestation of violence often creates conflicts and karmic situations, which then take a long time to resolve. And a lot of energy is spent on all of this. And also we accumulate unnecessary karma. So in other words, it does not contribute to our sadhana. Therefore, ahimsa must be observed first of all for oneself, for one's own spiritual development, not for others. My Guruji once said about ahimsa in this word, that the world is full of destructive forces, and therefore it is better for someone who wants to show stupid aggression to have the opportunity to deal with the same kind of forces. But it is advisable for sadhaka, for practitioner, to learn how to participate in this as little as possible and to save his vital energy. And this is not running away from battlefield, but rather the competent calculation of how to win these fewer losses. So this is a great art. And this art begins with ability to hear the word, not to enter into opposition, or at least to carry out various tasks of life in a more flexible way. And this flexibility is a reflection of the wisdom revealed in your yoga sadhana. So sadhana is very important here. And then as a result of your yogic practice, of your yoga sadhana, you gradually come to know your true perfect nature, Atman, inner self, which is one in all living beings. And you will understand the true essence of Ahimsa, which lies beyond duality. You will understand that the whole world is you, yourself. There is no difference, there is not separation. You have one soul, Atman, or Paramatman. And then you will naturally avoid violence against yourself, even in the external forms of other people or animals. But you will see also all the levels of duality, where Himsa and Ahimsa work together. So this is the quite high level of realization, of course. And this is one of the goals of Nath Yogi, to go beyond the duality and non-duality when you perceive both of them at the same time. I just mention it as our higher goal in the practice of Ahimsa also, not only in practice of meditation and so on. In conclusion, I would like to add that Ahimsa is reflected in one way or another in some other principles of Yama and Niyama, such as Satya, following the truth, Mitahara, how we eat and what we eat, Asteya, non-stealing, and so on. So we can find the traces of Ahimsa there. And perhaps that's why Ahimsa is the first and the main principle, because it pervades all the others. And we will see it in the next videos, I think. So that's all for today from me.
Bahut acha. I'm looking forward it, and as I like to say in Hindi, मेरी प्यारी बहन लक्ष्मी जी, हर चीज के लिए शुक्रिया, हम जारी रखेंगे, फिर मिलेंगे, आदेश.
Bahut dhanyavad. Adesh, Adesh.